There are few subjects that attract stronger views than public and private school funding.
And it's a fundamental right of every Australian parent to have as much control and choice in the education of their children as society can possibly give them.
It's about investing in schools in our most disadvantaged communities.
Our government believes that parents should have choice in education.
New figures from the My School website, obtained by the ABC, reveals how much income each school in Australia received over a 5-year period and how much they spent on big building projects. The figures show that over that time, Australia's 4 richest schools spent more on new facilities and renovations than the poorest 1,800 schools combined. Melbourne's elite Wesley College spent more than $96 million over the period, partly on a $21 million music school, a $16 million boarding facility, and a $2.3 million art and design precinct. By comparison, Perth's Willetton Senior High spent $52 million, including on new buildings for art, media, science, and on its 400 new Year 7 students.
Public schools do not receive enough funding, full stop. Whether or not the answer to that is to reduce funding to the very wealthiest schools, that's a question for politics.
Knox Grammar in Sydney spent $47 million on a performing arts centre with a 750-seat auditorium and adjustable orchestra pit. Brisbane State High spent the same amount, $47 million, mostly on 40 new classrooms to address a 35% increase in enrolments. So how are these private schools able to spend so much? Schools receive 2 types of funding: capital, for new buildings and refurbishments, and recurrent, which covers the ongoing costs of running a school, but can't be spent on capital projects. Capital funding is a drop in the ocean compared to recurrent funding. In 2017, that pot was worth $14 billion for private schools.
The wealthiest private schools will say quite rightly that a lot of these building projects are the result of intense private fundraising, that it's private money that they're spending. But in fact, this private money can be spent because they know that they have quite generous subsidies of their recurrent costs. So that gives them a kind of underpinning of security that any private money they get can be devoted to these large projects.
Public school students still receive more government funding than their private school peers. But for every dollar spent on public school students, taxpayers spend 84 cents on Catholic students and 69 cents on independent students.
So you have 2 competing arguments here. One of them is that it's every parent's right to choose the place in which their child is schooled and to have that choice subsidised by the government because they pay tax. The other argument emphasises more the rights of children, and the argument says that, in fact, public schools are the schools that are there for everybody. If someone opts out, that, in a sense, they do so off their own bat.
Independent schools say each child is entitled to a government contribution to the cost of their education, and more than 90% of capital funds come from private sources. But with $14 billion on the line, the question remains: are taxpayer funds helping to make Australia's school system more or less fair?
So this is another episode, I suppose, in a long, complicated and bitter history of public funding and of private schools. It's really hard to know where this will go. We seem to be entering a new phase of private school, public school funding wars.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 730's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.